si ton réveil oubliait de sonner ce matin?
Tout est envisageable.
Qu'est-ce que tu as comme cours?
Rien d'important. Maths, français et anglais.
Il faut que je te dise un truc.
Moi aussi, je vais te faire l'amour. Je vais te faire oublier tous tes cafards. Toutes tes misères.
This story centers on Rémi, a talented pianist who feels that his life is stagnant and empty. Every night, he plays the piano at a fancy restaurant to entertain rich people, but deep down, he feels unfulfilled. Now, almost 30, he feels trapped in a boring routine. This situation is exacerbated by his cold relationship with his girlfriend, Martine. Martine is a woman who values luxury and appearance over their relationship. She looks down on Rémi's work and constantly asks him for things he cannot afford. The conflict reaches a head when Martine asks for money to pay for a lingerie photo shoot. Although hesitant, Rémi gives it to her. Just before she leaves, he begs her to stay and promises to make things right. However, his pleas are ignored. Shortly thereafter, tragedy strikes. Martine is killed in a car accident. When Rémi arrives at the scene, he sees his girlfriend's body being evacuated. This moment shatters his world and marks the beginning of a drastic change in his life. The arrival of Marion, Martine's teenage daughter from a previous relationship, only adds to Rémi's burden. Marion, unaware of what had happened, came home to find Rémi in a state of shock. Now responsible for her guardianship, Rémi was unable to deliver the sad news directly. Instead, he wrote a note hinting at the bitter truth. When Marion finally understood that her mother was gone, her world collapsed. Overcome with grief, she begged to be allowed to stay with Rémi because she refused to live with her biological father, Charlie. Charlie then appeared. He was initially skeptical, thinking that Martine's death was a trick to get money. Once convinced, however, he insisted on taking custody of Marion. Although Marion refused, she was forced to leave, leaving Rémi in painful solitude. Sometime later, unable to bear the longing and loneliness, Rémi called Marion. That brief conversation was enough to trigger Marion's decision. She ran away from her father's house and returned to Rémi's apartment, declaring it her home. When Charlie arrived, he got into a physical confrontation with Rémi, which eventually led him to give in. He allowed his daughter to stay with Rémi on the condition that Rémi take good care of her. This is where the real story begins. The relationship between Rémi and Marion changed from that of guardian and foster child to something much more complicated. They built a simple new life together, but their intense closeness sowed the seeds of forbidden feelings. As Marion grew up, she was the first to voice her feelings. One night, she boldly admitted that she was in love with Rémi. Shocked and feeling guilty, Rémi rejected her outright. He used the excuse of their vast age difference and his status as a surrogate father to justify his rejection. He felt this would be a betrayal of Martine, who had passed away. This rejection broke Marion's heart, causing her to withdraw and become emotionally unwell. The doctor diagnosed her with stress-induced anemia. Seeing Marion's condition worsen, Rémi made the difficult decision to send her on holiday with her father, hoping that time apart would help them both to heal. However, the separation tormented Rémi. On Christmas Eve, at the height of his loneliness, he received a phone call from Marion. Hearing the girl's sad voice, Rémi could no longer hold back. He borrowed a car and traveled far to see her. In a hotel room far from their world, all boundaries and doubts disappeared. They finally gave in to the feelings they had been hiding. Their relationship changed forever. Upon returning, they began living together in a shabby apartment. However, the reality of their unusual relationship continued to haunt them. Rémi became consumed by jealousy whenever he saw Marion socializing with her friends, while he himself felt increasingly isolated. He tried to encourage Marion to lead a normal life, but the two of them were already too attached. The climax of the story comes when Remy realizes that their relationship could never be normal. He decided to leave everything behind and pursue his career as a pianist again, a way to escape the complicated situation. He tells Marion about his plan, and, surprisingly maturely, she seems to accept it. She promises to return to her father. The film ends with an ambiguous scene. We see Remy starting a new normal relationship with a woman named Charlotte. However, at the same time, Marion is preparing to leave with her father, leaving her past behind.